I want to mention the elephant in the room. The love of God. The fact he doesn't emote too much. You chose to be trapped in your four walls. You stare at me for hours. Also, yes, elephant in the room. Why, hello there. I decided to make another Miside discussion video with a theory I had brewing for literally a year. Also, the upcoming section didn't spoil anything for the theory intentionally, in case you were wondering. I want to mention the elephant in the room right away. So here, no, I'm not saying the player one is a really good or even just a good character, objectively. He's decent, though I personally love the guy. But some more stuff could have been done about him for sure, so he feels less like a self-insert. So yes, that critique has a small merit to it, don't get me wrong. Again, a small merit to it. Also, for the love of God, the fact he doesn't emote too much is a game limitation, not a lore one. While yes, in Wirelips, a previous game, the female product was more emotive, the game was smaller in scope. Ayasto obviously isn't going to spend development time making many animations and expressions for something a player won't get to see unless they flip in spam photo mode, which isn't the way you're supposed to see most things anyways. Yes, I know a lot of Easter eggs are more visible within photo mode, but animations for the protagonist would have been categorized as Easter eggs. Alright, I will point out my observations first before I go to the theory proper. First of all, it has been heavily established that player. You know what? I would just call the guy Konoa because player 1 feels too generic, even if it's the most correct name. Anyways, Konoa has been heavily established to be an indoor person from the line "You chose to be trapped in your four walls" from Crazy Mita, the comment from him opening the unknown app in the real life chapter and selecting the backpack. Would be nice to finally go outside, there's good weather today. There's also the fact he is less outgoing, from him pointing out how outgoing his sister is when selecting the picture frame with them within in his room. Usually someone less outgoing stays at home more. He also has a weird relationship with his work. When selecting the picture frame with him and several unknown people in the prologue, he says, "Office life has really drilled its etiquette into our lives. I still feel weirdly tied." Him specifying weirdly tied means that he uses that etiquette in places that don't need it. One example being him putting his uniform before working on code literally at his home, but it also could mean him still having it even if he no longer needs to be in an environment that requires it. His extra remark of, "Will I ever see them again? Wait, why did I put this up?" means that despite him not feeling too attached about his coworkers, with him forgetting that he even put up the picture frame, but he still laments over the fact that he might never see them again. We see a bit of his working environment during the loops in the real life chapter, but he also mentions making character interactions and other tasks apart from plain coding in the prologue. He is also characterized to be somewhat or really lonely. This is mostly seen from the line Crazy Mita said that "you stare at me for hours." And also the fact that he doesn't really talk to anyone within his routine in the real life chapter, though it might only specifically be the mind numbing stuff, because Crazy Mita want to remind him the bad parts, and you don't see him doing stuff in his free time, like gaming, despite him clearly having a game console. However, this mind numbness has for sure contributed to him being more emotionally exhausted. His lazy side also somewhat contributes to this since he doesn't have time to get proper food or properly tidy up his room. There is also some, emphasis on the some, potential for him to be getting antidepressant medicine, since he does have blister packs within his room at the start of the game. But this is very heavy speculation, since it could just be something as mundane as vitamin C supplements, though the elephant tranquilizers in his room are more possible to have significance, since they could for sure mean he has trouble sleeping and needs them due to his bad work to life balance, which is really apparent. Also, yes, elephant in the room. With all these observations combined, we can see that Konoa, first, was really lonely to the point he spent hours with a digital companion app. Second, he is weirdly tied to his office work. And third, he generally doesn't go outside. I believe that the reason he didn't try to reach out to his coworkers and still feels weirdly tied to his office job is because he got fired recently. I am mostly basing this from his remark of, will I ever see them again? Since it was just a promotion, you could say he could potentially cut ties with his lower level coworkers, but he wouldn't be outright weirdly tied to office etiquette if his work still required it. Also, while this could very well be a game limitation, he seems like a person who never goes outside his home unless it's something important. Add within your four walls. This nice weather today, I should go outside, implies that him going outside is more of a rare event, and him opening the door to exit his room could very well be him running errands or just simply going to the toilet. I feel like remote work, while more possible, also doesn't make sense. Like with promotion, since he has an even less of a reason to not contact his coworkers if he was just transferred to remote work, and if he was always a remote worker, he wouldn't have as much as a bond with his coworkers to say the "Will I ever see them again?" remark. Now, I for sure see you ask, if he got fired from his job, why didn't he mention anything to Mita? Or why didn't we see anything in room life? Well, despite the fact, in the time skip of the 37 days, Konoa could have told the fact of him getting fired from his previous job to Mita. Since this is really hypothetical, it doesn't count, but it could very easily be explained by him not wanting to relieve his IRL problems within the comfort of a digital companion that Miside provides. He does do a remark when selecting the computer in the Together at Last chapter about this is how I make my living, but this could easily refer to his work as a freelancer or generally him being a programmer. I can now hear you say, but the day shown in the real life chapter it's 999, which is approximately 2.5 years. Didn't you say he was fired recently? Okay, maybe not the 2.5 years part. Well, the fact that it was confirmed that Konoa is a real person means that Crazy could just lack information from his life outside his room and simply exaggerated what she did, see? Also, player 1 could very well do some of his job remotely, even if he needs to commute to his job occasionally, and we have to remember that Crazy Mita only saw a bit more than a month from his life. Like I said, what she showed has a very high chance of being an exaggeration, since he didn't see 1000 days of his life to be able to emulate him looping perfectly for the 1000 days. There is also the fact that MK gave the Miside up to him, but this doesn't necessarily mean he worked for an office job for Miside. Konoa and his presumed friend MK could just be Tamagotchi game enthusiasts. Anyways, I believe the biggest reason for him being emotionally exhausted, apart from the fact he's overworking, which contributed a lot, don't get me wrong, is because he got depressed over getting himself fired and being unable to find another office job and becoming a freelancer programmer. This could also tie in with the medicine blister packs if they weren't just, like I said when I first mentioned them, a mundane background element. Also, another interesting fact, Konoha has glasses next to his Rubik's Cube and his watch, so there is a small potential for those to be prescription glasses. They could be blue light blocking glasses, but the ones I have and the ones I have seen are more thick, have a more thick outline. I will show a picture here. The glasses could also make it so he puts on contacts. That's why you never see him putting glasses because of appearances. Literally, the devs or anybody else has not mentioned the glasses, so this is really heavy speculation, but another aspect of Player One that could be worth of discussing. I always had a problem with the Player One is a Miside developer, popular Konoa theory, because Crazy Mita hated the Miside devs so much that she would have mentioned something if he was one, especially if she observed him for over a month. Something should have slid out about his Miside development if he worked on it for that long. However, this freelancer theory gives enough wiggle room for him to actually be able to be a Miside developer, but a recent temp work one, so he had less focus on the Miside stuff and didn't really need to mention anything since he only worked on unimportant parts of the code that could have been done for other projects. This also could mean that MK wasn't a friend at all and just gave him the latest Miside version, though, hey, check it out, it's pretty informal, so I'm leaning more towards them being Tamagotchi game enthusiasts and Konoa taking interest in being a temp worker for Miside later. A lot of people point out that, hey, he worked on a meta neural network in the real life chapter, which, yeah, fair, but like I said, this could be due to the limited information that Crazy Mita has. It isn't a hard confirm that he is a Miside developer, even if my theory fixes the biggest issue I have with it. I will now have a segment for the thoughts of two other Miside YouTubers about this theory, just in case all of what I'm saying is just crazy talk, for there to be third-party opinions in the video. The first is from Maxunjump. You know him from his cartridge and Miside debunk stuff. We also did the Miside podcast together. The second being from Zlectiux. I hope I didn't butcher that, which we did a Kind Mita is an Evil video together. You might have seen his Mita being adorable or his Project Psycho, now Project Cartridge series. Take it away, Max.
Well, thanks for the intro, Super Angel, and for the three of you who made it this far, I am surprised that you're able to sit through this boring yapping for this long. I'm just kidding. But yo, we got an intermission now, guys. Jingle, jingle, you can pay attention to your screen again, because we got a sponsor. Did you guys really think that Super Angel was going to get a sponsor? Well, unfortunately, we are not sponsored, but regardless, I don't care. I'm still going to be calling out some Miside merch, whether he likes it or not. There are some 1/7 figures, some 1/6 scale figures. These are looking really good. So if this is something that you're interested in, hop over to Kickstarter.com to check out the Miside official merch page. They've even got an accessories pack and even custom keycaps that you can add to your keyboard. All you have to do is pledge the amount that's right beside the merch that you want, and they'll get it shipped out to you. You can also head over to artcrate.com if you're interested in some plushies. There's also some Nendroid figures, or what is this? Light peripheral gift set. What the? That's pretty cool. You can also check out Nokuto.com for this Chibi Mita set. They got all the Mitas in here. That's so cool. And somehow it's still available for pre-orders. Anyways, he's been out for a while and I had wanted to make a video on them, but I was too lazy, so I guess his cameo is all you're gonna get out of me. Alright guys, intermission's over. Let's get back to the video. Oh, my points? just whatever Super Angel said, I guess. But jokes aside, the points that he made were really good, especially the one where it talks about how player one was most likely fired from his previous job and then ended up as a kind of work from home developer. It would actually make a lot of sense considering he has friends sending him project files, the fact that he's working with proprietary software, and the medication on his desk, which could stem from just stress from overworking or just the stress of being fired from his previous job and having to transition into a new one. If you want a bit more of my thoughts on player one, my cartridge video is still pretty up to date, so you guys can check that out right after this video. And yeah, Super Angel, I'll make you link a bunch of stuff. It's not my fault if you forget to link any of these, alright?
I got some months ago. It isn't, it isn't, it isn't.
Alright, does make it into Cameo. Guys, check this out.
Alright, before I discuss what Max just said, let's also hear from Zlectiux. I still hope I'm not butchering the name.
Anyway, thank you to Super Angel for letting me be a part of this video. Alright, now, I think Player 1, or Konoa, as Super Angel called him, I'm gonna start calling him that from now on, but I think Konoa, if I'm saying that right, is actually a Miside dev, and that's why he has Miside in the first place. And while Miside is a game, isn't it weird how Crazy Mita has the power to pull you from the real world and into the game? Like, that doesn't sound like your typical game, but I think he did actually help in making it. And you might think, wouldn't he know about that power? And while he might have worked on it, he might not have known everything about the game, as he wasn't the only one working on it and therefore wouldn't know. But I think he's really depressed and is now using Miside as a way to numb his depression, and that's why it shows a lot of days go by with him playing the game, and then, as we all know, he gets pulled into the game and everything that we all know happens, and then he wants out after realizing how crazy Mita is, and decides that being in the real world is better than what he is now going through. But anyway, that's my take on it. I don't know everything about him, but I have my own theories. Aside from my developer player one Miside theory of my own, I do think Super Angel is on point with a lot of the stuff he said. I don't know much about player one, but I will say I do actually kind of agree with a lot of the stuff Super Angel said, because I just think the dude's mostly depressed. That's what I genuinely think. And in the second playthrough I heard, well, I've seen this, but I heard it was in the second playthrough, you see like his eyes get weaker and weaker, like with bags under them and him being tired, like as he's going through the game. I think he's genuinely just sad and depressed, but it could be from getting fired from his work. I genuinely don't know though. But yeah, I think he's right on a lot of this stuff. But once again, I don't fully know everything about player one. Yeah, that's like my full-on take on that.
Alright, thanks to both of you for making a cameo for my video. Let's start with Max. Did the guy really use half of his cameo for plugging Miside merch? Because he was too lazy and busy to do it on his own channel. Fair game, I guess. I do want you guys to know about the merch anyways. I guess Max didn't have any disagreement with my theory, unlike Zlectiux, who had just a small one. As for what Zlectiux said, honestly, while I appreciate any discussion about Miside, especially player one, since this is why I made the video in the first place, I don't really believe that player one was an old dev and worked on the machine that Crazy Mita used to transfer players theory he proposed. He has to be an old dev to work on that machine, because Konoa wasn't the first player to arrive, evident from what you see when you open the event, alongside other cartridges that you collect. Apart from the stuff that I already discussed, with Crazy Mita not having a reaction to Konoa's dev status, wouldn't he have made a remark that Mita used the familiar machine to transport him? Like, this machine looks familiar. Or if he didn't work on the whole thing, this part looks familiar. Or if he only did code and no modeling, oh, in his head, maybe this was what I worked on. I guess you could say he only coded a really small portion of the machine's logic that didn't have to do with player transferring, but like I said, the crazy meta stuff is a problem as well. The player one is an old Miside dev theory, could be so easily saved if there was even one remark for the stuff I already talked about. I will probably do cameos like this again in the future as well, not gonna lie. Oh, also, I completely forgot to mention the now hiring pamphlet on Konoa's desk. It's really strong evidence for my theory. If somebody got fired from or still works for the company of this new spots are open pamphlet, they would have just thrown it away. But Konoa clearly keeps it close on his desk, meaning he might have recently started working or wants to work for GeoWarp. Anyways, my theory aside, apart from the stuff I already said about why Ayasto didn't spend time making expression for Konoa's face, the English VA and the subtitles give a lot of expression to him. Here are two good examples.
What am I wasting my time on? Looks like she doesn't remember anything. Did we do it then? Did we restart her? Now all I have to do is get out of this damned game.
It's not possible!
You, I can't believe this. They're not the problem. You're the one who shouldn't exist!
You do.
As you can see, the letters shake to show Konoa's distress, and his English VA is really emotive. Yes, I know that the Russian dub is less emotional, but Konoa still reacts to stuff even if he feels colder. So no, even if my theory is fully debunked by the devs, there is enough environmental storytelling for him to not be dry noodles or a nothing burger. But objectively, more stuff could have been done for him. Though, we might get something from the new update. Player 1 has good ties to the themes of Miside, especially the isolation one. Okay. Honestly, I had this theory on my mind a bit before Max did that Player 1 cartridge video a while ago. My past self of a year ago have never thought I would be doing collabs with other YouTubers that weren't my IRL friends. Anyways, the next video will be the meta for sure. Some recent bad news appeared for it, so I will discuss that whenever I make the Monica the Meta video. Anyways, thanks for watching to whoever didn't actually skip and made it this far. See ya next time.